Okay, so we're back to our Mishlei sugya of fools and proverbs, I guess, or however you want to title the sugya. And I'm going to announce here that just for testing purposes, we're testing a new audio setting. Okay, so the two things I want to listen for are going to be, is it going to pick up on distracting typing noises? And then how is it going to pick up on the people seated at the ends of the table? And will it make me sound drunk? Which is why I don't use setting number 3 in general, but I'm trying a new Zoom setting. So we're going to see if this solves all the problems. What was that?
That's off like sounding drunk.
Yeah.
He's the one who.
I think he just doesn't know that that's what it does for the recordings. So yeah. But okay. Anyway, I guess we'll find out. Okay. So Chaf Vav Ches 26:8. Kitzror Evan b'margema kain nosen l'ksil kavod. Okay. So there's like a classic way to translate this. Yeah. Go ahead.
Like a bound stone in a slingshot.
Oh, that's pretty good actually. Yeah, I was looking for a way to say I usually say like a loaded slingshot, but I was trying to figure out a way to say tzror, like so bound, like a stone bound in a slingshot.
So too is a giver to a fool. So too is one who gives fool to a coveted.
Yeah, so too is one who gives honor to a fool. Okay, yeah. So Mitzvah Tzion says kitzror is inyan kshira, it's like tying. Kamo tzror kaspo, like a bundling, maybe it would be another one, right? B'tzror hachayim, right? Like a bundle, bundle of life. And then margema is ken yikari hakela. That's what a slingshot is called. Ki al bo rogmim umashlichim ha'avanim, because that's what you use. Oh, I never thought about that. That's what you use to rogmim, to stone people. Margema. Rogem. So yeah, umashlichim havanim, and to throw stones. Vuhu milashon be'evan yirgamo. Right there you go. Okay, so I say that this is the classic way to translate it because I did not see this until this morning. Look how Saadia Gaon translates it. Ke'evan margalis begal avanim kacha nosen l'ksil kavod. How do you translate that?
Like a pearl stone in a heap of normal stone.
Yeah, like a pearl. So I feel like the word margalis is sometimes translated as pearl and sometimes as like precious stone in general, right? So I feel like precious stone is probably a better translation here because I feel like pearls just don't end up in heaps of regular stones, and if they are, then you could tell, maybe I don't know, whatever. Like a precious stone in a heap of, and then I like I said regular stones. So is one who gives honor to a fool. Okay, and then I didn't have time to look up the Targum. So the second half is definitely just a straight translation. One who does honor to a fool. We can look that up if we want to, but I'm fine with just two translations right now. Okay, our scroll, like one who loads a stone into a sling, so is one who gives honor to a fool. Living Nach says like a stone placed in a sling, so is he who shows honor to a fool. And Alter says like one binding a stone in a sling, so he who gives a fool honor. Yeah.
Oh, so the swarm means that you're loading the evidence.
Yeah, you're loading it. Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I guess because I don't know what material they made slingshots out of back then. Not elastic, right? But whatever. I think it works with our slingshots also, but like maybe it's like a cloth, probably like a springy cloth. So like it is like bundled kind of, as opposed to just like a band, which is how, I don't know. I think we picture slingshots. Okay. Probably not gonna make a difference for the muscle, but yeah. Okay. Questions.
Yeah. I mean, I really, really like this mushel. It's like a really like poignant mushel. But it seems obvious.
Okay, fine. Okay, so I was going to ask the question: what is the idea of the mushel, right? Or it's obvious. Okay, it's funny how that happens sometimes. Okay, fine. I'm not going to ask you to spell out why it's obvious yet. Okay, I'll ask that after we get the questions. Yeah.
Okay. What is kavod here, and how do you give it?
Okay, what is kavod in this context? What would it mean to give kavod to the Ksil? Yeah.
Just trying to understand the mashal when there's like the so to part of it.
Yeah.
Is that like the stone? Does that mean that the honor that he gives is like the stone, or that he himself is like the stone?
Interesting. he himself. What do you mean he himself?
That like he's now in some way going to be able to like the fool is going to now be able to like utilize him and like throw this guy at other people. So they can be able to like use him as like, oh, you see, like I really am smart. I have followers. I don't know what. Just like he himself becomes like something that the fool can utilize. Or is the fool utilizing the honor?
Some reason I'm having a hard time processing the second. Like I assumed. How many assumed that it was the stone is like the honor? No one else did. Oh yeah, because I'm not. Something's not connecting. Let's just break it down to its elements. You have a stone, a slingshot, and the person who loads it, right?
Yeah.
So, you know what? Let's just do this here. Hold on just 1 second here. Let's make a table. Okay, so you have. Oh, sorry.
I did 4.
Oh yeah, hold on. Wait, what are the 4? I'm not gonna make a table.
I mean, it could be 3, but there also could be 4.
Oh,
the slingshot, the one who loads it, and the ones who shoots it.
Okay, correct. Oh wait,
Those
no. Okay, I think it's the same person, but maybe it could be the victim also, the one who gets shot by it.
No, I'm saying those could be different people.
The one who loads it and the one who shoots it.
Yeah.
I don't think you can.
I could give loaded slingshot and give it to you, and you shoot it.
I don't think you can. I don't think slingshots work that way, right? Because you have to. Yeah, I mean, you could like stretch it and then like hand it over, right?
I'm pretty sure it's a sling, not a slingshot.
What's the difference?
Okay, a sling is a
Oh, like that?
is this
Uh-huh.
and you throw it.
Oh.
Slingshot is that. I don't
Okay.
think they had slingshots.
Oh, that would make a lot more sense then in terms of the bundling. Okay, there you go. Sling. Okay. In fact, we'll do it like this so that others do not stumble in my path. Before we ask a question, wait. So you're saying that someone loads it and then gives it over. I'm gonna not assume that just because I feel like that already is, I don't know, positing something outside of the muscle. I recognize there's a possibility.
In the second act, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's need.
Oh, you mean because you're giving it to the fool and then
Yeah,
he's
what
shooting
he
it?
does.
Okay, I hear. Okay, fine. So let's just ask this as a basic question here. Okay, what is the precise relationship between the elements of the mashal and the elements of the nimshal? Okay, specifically, A, the stone, B, the sling, C, the loader, and D, the shooter, right? And then versus the I don't want to imply that these are the same thing, so I'm not going to use the letters. The giver of honor, the fool. What are the other?
Honor.
The honor itself.
And then I guess what is the fool? What happens with the fool because he's honor? What does he do with that?
Yeah, and the outcome. I'm just going to use that as a thing. Hold on. So Ariel was next. Yeah, Ariel.
I guess that kind of is my question. Like, what's the nimshal?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also like how is this obvious specifically?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm holding off on asking Isaac to explain. Isaac thinks it's obvious. I don't think it's obvious. So I'm just
okay.
Yeah, Sean.
Okay, beyond relationship, who's wielding the sling? Is it
Yeah.
like a Sadiq, a Rasha, a fool?
Okay. I'm gonna include this. I'll put this here. Okay, so who? I'm trying to think. Is this part of the question of who is the audience? Like, who's this talking to? Or is this part of the facts of the mashal? Right. So I guess yes. So who is the
Wielder?
the non-fool in the pasuk, right? Is it a tzaddik, another fool, someone else? Yeah. Okay. Ellie, do you have a question?
Yeah. So I just I don't know if we're going on to Sharia or understanding.
Not quite yet, but if you want to.
I'll hold that.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm gonna just make explicit a question, which maybe is obvious, but hold on. The question here is what? Yeah, actually, I'll just put this question here. What is the consequence? The pasuk doesn't say, right? what happens if you do this, right? Like, so what?
Yeah, is it a good thing, bad thing?
Yeah, well, it sounds like it's a bad thing, right? Well, fine. Is
It's
this
not anything.
a good thing or a bad thing, right? I mean, it depends on if you're David and Melech shooting Goliath, then it's pretty good, but yeah.
I guess what's inherently bad seemingly about binding a stone in a slingshot?
Yeah.
Sling, in that like it, I mean, yeah.
Okay, yeah, right. So
I mean, they seem to be both have.
it's just binding a stone in a sling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also like what's if we are gonna go on the premise that it's a bad thing, what's the harm in giving honor to the fool? And what kind of honor are we referring to?
Right.
And what kind of a fool are we talking about?
Yeah, so the fool thing we have not listed yet, so let's ask that. But we did ask what is the honor. So what is a ksil in this context? Is this a technical definition or a generic bad Mishlei actor? Yeah. Yeah,
And also what kind of honor are we referring to?
right, that we asked already.
Oh.
Oh, sorry, I meant to say what is honor in this context, not why. Yeah. Oh, actually, that's another good question, right? Why would one make this mistake? Right? Why would one give honor to a fool, assuming it's a mistake? Yeah. Okay, so are we ready for ideas? Or-
And is there a difference in bounding the stone versus shooting the stone?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, is shooting the stone the good thing?
Yeah, you know
versus
what?
bounding
Let's
the
just
stone?
do this here. I could say that is also a like. Oops, sorry.
I mean, it seems like
The
it was,
act
like,
of
failing
shooting.
to something.
Oh, yeah, we're just asking
the
what are the questions?
result of
stage, so I'm
shooting.
not looking for
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah. So really, there are different elements you can choose from here. There's a lot more elements than I realized at first. Yeah. Sorry, was there another question or not? No, okay.
Trying to ask you.
So before we go to Ellie's idea, so Isaac, why don't you explain why this is so obvious?
Okay.
Which is
So-
probably an idea, but
Yeah. Well, yes, I kind of had the muscle wrong. I was thinking like putting a stone in a catapult. That's what I was thinking of.
In a catapult. That's interesting. I mean, let me just
Yeah.
point this out. That might not be something to rule out, because when I looked on all Torah, it says Margema is only used in this pasuk. Okay. Especially toy with a capital T. What does that mean? Okay, that's fine. Is that like an abbreviation of something, or is that like a toy? I don't know. So it's a sling and then question mark implement of hurling stone. Yeah, so in other words, it's not so, maybe it is a catapult, so yeah.
Would you use bounding?
What was it?
Would you use Lashon the Torah?
I don't know, right? Because Ksil kaspo be'amtachto, that's like putting something in a pouch, like it doesn't have to, I don't know what the parameters of binding of stones and weaponry is. Yeah. So Isaac, yeah, go ahead.
So I think when a Ksil is like, when a Ksil gets honor, there's all sorts of like destructive things that come about through that. Like he's gonna put others down to maintain his honor. He's gonna be even more unwilling to accept that he might be wrong about something.
Mhm.
There's like a lot of like bad consequences of when a Ksil gets covered.
Mhm.
And so if you honor a Ksil, then you might not be directly causing destruction, but you're priming that to happen.
Right. So it'd be like, correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't mean to like gloss over the muscle, but just to give a contemporary thing, it's like if you gave a loaded weapon to like a kid, like a loaded gun, right? Is that like the type of thing that you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
You're not doing any harm, but you're setting up a situation that's inevitably going to result in harm.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I think that's not a bad shot.
The question is how is it harmful?
Well, so Isaac's saying, didn't you come up with a name for this kind of pasuk? I called it a list pasuk, but I thought that was not very
A list.
list pasuk. Yeah, where it's not saying a specific consequences. It's giving you something where like there are many bad consequences, like the judge pasuk. Didn't we talk about this like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah. Oh, I don't remember.
You had a catchy term for it, but I forgot what it was. I think it was you.
So it's not necessary to answer that question.
So the question is really answered by many other pasukim in Mishlei that talk about the harms of kavod, and this pasuk is not a chiddush in the fact that there is a specific harm. It's a chiddush in the fact that you're facilitating the doing of all these harms, so it doesn't really need to spell out the consequence. I'll give you an example of this. This discussion that I'm referring to was not during shiur. I think it was after shiur, so I don't think this is recorded. But there's a pasuk that says, like a person who, like a mother bear whose cubs have been taken away. So is a fool in his anger. Okay, so I think Rabbeinu Yonah there explains basically that, like, or if you look at all the meforshim, basically, the idea of the pasuk is to get you to realize how dangerous the fool is when he's angry, and it does it by comparing it to the bear. And so there are a bunch of like different explanations, like a bear has a certain range in which it can harm you. And if you're out of that range, it can't harm you. A fool, a human being, has nearly unlimited range, right? He can like track you down overseas and like assassinate you in your bed or something, Or another thing is, a bear is predictable. Like there are things that bears do when they are angry. A Ksil has a much wider like variety of things that he can do. A bear, I don't know if this is actually true, but I think the assumption, one of the meforshim, a bear will forget. A fool can hold a grudge. So the idea of the pasuk is not to teach you a specific consequence. It's to open your eyes to a whole realm of consequences. And that's what Isaac is saying this pasuk is doing.
Yeah, I guess this could be right. I remember Pesach mentioning to me one time that an idiot is a lot more dangerous than like a
Yeah, I've heard people say that before. Also, I think that's up for debate. But yeah, that if that's true, then yeah, yeah. Ellie, you had yeah.
Similar to what I just said.
Yeah.
It would definitely the muscle of the stone being binded to the wing or slingshot. Would definitely have to be something that's I think harmful.
Yeah.
And I kind of see that as like this domino effect kind of thing, that it's not actively, like we said, like a bad thing, but really it's setting up for, it's like tipping the first domino,
right?
Kind of just spiral.
Yeah, yeah, and I think this is why the question of why would one make this mistake is a very important question, because going to these two approaches, that's the core that this is like, you would overlook this mistake, or you would think that this is a good idea somehow, not realize, and I think it's justified by the fact that you're not actively causing harm. Yeah, Jacob.
Potential answer to that question, 7.
Yes.
Presumably Ksil are kind of hard to deal with.
Yeah.
Type of seeking.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
Listening to people.
Yeah.
So you might think that if I just give this guy,
throw him a bone.
Yeah.
Load him a stone.
Butter him up.
Yeah.
Be more, be easier to work with.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. That's a good good answer to the question. So, yeah. Go ahead.
Also, like we see I think by Rishayim, like a way to like get them to fall, like with like Haman or something,
yeah,
like that, is to throw them a bone, right? So
right.
I think that maybe you can use that.
That's good. We had a pasuk like that in our chapter that we were on. Didn't we do Maskil Tzadik Lebeis Rasha Masalach Rishayim Lara? Right. That. Yes. Yeah. Right. So yeah, we said that with Rishayim, if you inflate their ego, it will hasten their destruction.
You might think like, oh, Ksil, Russia, maybe has some sort of similarities in that.
Yeah.
That, like maybe this is why it would work.
That's a really good, powerful question. Why doesn't it work? Right. I think I know why it doesn't work, but anyone want to say? Yeah.
Why question?
Yeah. Yeah. So what? Just to oops, I did not mean to click on that. Hold on, just 1 second. Let me do tshuva. Was it like that? Yeah. Yeah, so just to articulate Chaim's question, which is, we had a pasuk that says that tzaddik brings success to the house of a rasha and corrupts the rishayim for harm. And one of the explanations we gave there is that like with Esther and Haman, that Haman was a rasha, and one of the strategies Esther used is she basically like fed his ego and made him think that like he was close with the king and like was successful and great and powerful, and that made him overstep his bounds, and then that brought about his destruction. Yeah.
I guess the Russia is kind of ordered and organized. He's trying to make his own system to cause reality. So exposing like an inherent flaw in that system is to make the whole system come.
Okay.
Whereas like Ksil is not organized, it's just impulsive and
So I don't know if this is the same thing as you're saying. My starting point is the same, which is that the Russia has a plan and is trying to impose his own system designed for his own greatness onto reality, which ultimately will not tolerate it because it's going to be based on some sort of like illusion or fantasy, you know? So when you give him kavod, he's going to like advance in his plan, and that plan ultimately ends in destruction. But the Ksil doesn't have a plan. He's much more reactive in terms of just the going after the immediate pleasure or whatever it is. So there's got to be a better muscle here, but it's just like a bunch of individual moves that the Ksil makes, but you know, which will bring about harmful consequences, but not like an overall trajectory for destruction, which is what the Russia has. That's descriptive, but yeah.
So I want to answer the what's the notional and the and with the second one.
Yeah.
But it might lead into a new idea.
Sure, that's fine. Yeah.
So maybe you could say that in the notional, you know, the stone that's bound into a sling is like you know, you have like it's kind of stuck.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of stuck. You know, because the ultimate goal of the stone is to be launched,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's where it should be.
Yeah.
So maybe and this will also answer number 7. Why do people make this mistake? Maybe people who's an observer wants to help that stone out. Maybe wants to help the fool out by maybe giving him encouragement, honoring him or whatever, so he can be launched into his, you know, success or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not necessarily a good thing, because there's a reason why a fool is stuck in his sling, because, you know, for whatever reason, like there's something more internal with him, not something external.
Okay.
You really have to understand what's really the issue.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just make sure I'm getting you right. So you're reading it. So we were up until now using the kavod as the stone. You're saying that the Ksil is the stone.
Yeah.
Right. So you're saying that that putting the stone into the sling is something that's inert, right? Like it doesn't act on its own. It needs to be put into a certain situation in order for it to have this effect.
Yeah.
And with the Ksil, I assume that's what he meant when he said stuck. Like he's going to be limited in what he can do on his own.
Yeah.
But if you put him into a position of power, you know, so then that enables him to act in a way that he wouldn't have been able to act on his own. So kind of like when people are Ksilin and they're given like a platform to speak, like,
Yeah.
you know, like then like they're saying the same idiotic stuff that they would say to their family, but
Just
like
more in a wider
audience, and that can create like bigger problems. Yeah. Right. Was it? Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's good. So let's just think about that for 1 second here. So there you're saying the mistake that you're making is you have some motive for setting the Ksil up in this way. And I don't even think it's necessarily like a specific motive, or maybe like,
you want to help the
right,
guy succeed, but you don't.
Okay, it could be a benevolent motive. I was thinking like many times, like you kind of are forced to do these things. Like let's say like, I don't know, let's say you have like someone working in your company who's been working for like 10 years and hasn't gotten promoted, you know, and like there's a lot of like political pressure or whatever to like give him some like promotion or some award or something like that, you know. And so you just think, okay, fine, I'm just like doing this thing, but he takes it as like a great, like, oh, now, you know, this confirms my greatness.
I mean, I'll give you a relevant example. Same case.
Okay.
Right. You know, like I do remember a few months ago, you know, like I told him, look, just do what you do on your own without, just don't get involved. I basically gave her permission to act like a fool in front of everyone.
Yeah, right. Right.
Unleash the crazy.
Yeah. So let's just dive deeper into what the mistake is, right? Because I think the mistake here is certainly it's an underestimation of the harm that the Ksil could do, and the underestimation is caused by minimizing what the change is between in the sling and not in the sling, right? Without, you know, so what I feel like I want to like, in other words, what we've been talking about is the motive, but I'm saying like, what is the cause of the blindness to this mistake? Yeah.
I just want to ask, martial wise, the stone being bound in a slingshot or a sling is that's saying that it's on a trajectory already and that it's going to be going on that path. Is that the point of the muscle?
I think you're still saying the same part of the muscle, that like you're setting it up for harm, right? It's just you're saying that you're setting up the Ksil.
Yeah, I'm setting it up.
As opposed to setting up the kavod, right? I mean, this might come to the same idea, by the way, but just in the muscle, right? In other words, like if I let me just state the difference again, just make sure I'm not missing anything. According to the approaches we were saying before, putting a stone in a sling, which sets up the potential for someone to get hurt, is giving kavod to the fool. So the fool is the sling. Sorry, the fool is the sling, and the kavod is the stone. Okay, Ariel is saying that it's also setting up for a situation where someone's going to get hurt, but the kavod, the situation of kavod, is the sling, and the
It's
fool is the
launch,
stone.
it's the launch.
The launch.
Yeah, meaning like if it's, you see, this is another problem I have within them for a little bit. Like in reality, like if it's in the sling, it's just in the sling. It's not launched anywhere.
No, but again, that's like with the muscle of the gun, right? Like if a gun is like has ammo and is loaded, then I think that's a better muscle. Yeah.
Can we posit that like in the sling was like spinning it also? Like, is that part of it? That like it's really just ready to go?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Or then it's like sitting on the floor with a stone.
No, I don't think that. See, I just think that's too impotent of a
This is
muscle.
like
Yeah.
a weapon that's ready to be fired.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I feel like this is. I mean, I don't know weaponry of this era, but like, how many other weapons can you think of that are loadable and usable?
Bow and arrow.
Baby gun.
A bone arrow is another one. Bone arrow is another one.
Definitely bow and arrow.
Yeah,
That's the first thing.
right.
And
Yeah,
then,
that's going to
a
launch,
car.
it's actually.
you would have had catapults and.
So maybe this is So catapult, I'm putting in the same category here.
They also had, I think they had a ballista.
No, I'm saying in this time. Yeah, ballista is also the same category. Right.
A horse.
Yeah. So no, my point is that like in fact, you know what? Maybe it's
I wonder if there's anything to stone and sling them, because you would think that you could just say arrow and bow.
yeah. So you know, it could be this kind of. I mean, I don't want to go so far as to call this a support, but it makes Isaac's assumption better because I assume that a bow and arrow evokes the idea of precision much better than a catapult and a stone. Like I don't know how sophisticated the catapult aiming systems were back then. You know, it wasn't like cannons. You know, I don't think of that. Actually, I have no idea. I have no idea what the weaponry was back then. So we're kind of
It's not
speculating
that
here.
precise as a bow and arrow.
Yeah, and bow and arrows is really
Although
precise. Yeah.
seemingly, I mean, unless you want to say that like the entire David and Goliath thing was like a total mace, like seemingly in the right hands with like somebody, a sling can be used. pretty
Right.
effectively.
No, that's why I'm saying that this supports Isaac's thing, that this is talking about. In other words, if you said that it's the sling, then there's less of a difference between a sling and a bow and arrow. But if you say it's a catapult, then you have like blunt projectile and targeted projectile, you know.
Like blunt projectile works better with the fool.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking also. It's like there's a certain unpredictability of where he's going to cause harm. He's just going to barrel into something, but like you don't know what you can't envision what that harm is going to be. Yeah, and he could miss. Yeah,
I have a question on the outcome.
yeah,
It's taking the definition from yesterday, that Ksil is a veteran pleasure seeker.
yeah.
So why is helping him in that going to cause damage?
That's a good question. Yeah. So on the previous pasuk, we said that Rabbeinu Yonah's definition of Ksil was a veteran pleasure seeker, someone who's been pursuing pleasure for a long time to the point where it's become second nature, and he's like a pleasure addict. You know, that was one definition. The other definition would be either generic Ksil or someone who just like really hardcore assumes reality is going to go his way. You know, so on the pleasure-seeking definition, the question is, what does kavod have to do with that? To me, this would seem to be much more like an intellectual, or not intellectual thing, in a societal, like the societal ramifications, not the like personal decision-making ramifications, right? Like you put him in a position of kavod, and now he thinks he can call the shots, or like he, you know, like Isaac was saying, like puts people down or whatever. That doesn't really seem relevant to pleasure-seeking. So I think that's a good question, or it's a good ride that this is not a pleasure-seeking Ksil. Yeah.
Going back to the catapult idea,
Yeah.
just send them maybe further support of it. That question 7 then would make a little bit more sense also.
Yeah.
In that a catapult might hit something, it might not hit something. Like if you're for sure like giving this kid a loaded gun, then
Yeah.
something's not gonna happen.
Right.
But if you're, I mean, I'll say you're giving a kid a catapult, but in the event of like loading a catapult, it's not the same kind of, like we said, it doesn't have that same kind of precision. So you would think, okay, this time maybe I can do it, this time I can't.
Yeah.
You know? But you would think that. Yeah, you think that there are some instances where you can give kavod to a fool,
Right.
and he's kind of saying like, even though it's a catapult,
Yeah.
you still shouldn't do it.
Right. You know, in fact, I think that this is actually a raya for the contemporary update of the mashal. Like Like, why is it dangerous to give a kid a loaded gun? Because what do kids do with guns? They point them at people and they shoot them. Like when you pretend with guns, right? What was that? Yeah, right, exactly. Like so like, what did you think would happen? Like, so same thing here. Like in other words, it's true that like a gun on its own or a catapult on its own is not necessarily going to hit anything. But you give it to someone who does this kind of thing, like of course he's gonna abuse the cover. Yeah.
So do we flush out the idea?
So how many approaches do we have now? Hard for me to keep track.
2 or 3.
Or is it 1?
Well, it depends on whether or not everybody agrees.
Like does the mushal, like I realized we had several ways of setting up the mushal, but does it actually matter, or is it just getting to the same thing anyway?
I think they're just different variants.
Yeah, like I think like at the end of the day, you have this idea of the Ksil with kavod is like a loaded weapon, and that could create the potential for a lot of unpredictable harm, and that the pasuk is addressing a person who would downplay that and just not appreciate the fact that they're setting someone up for this, either because I'm not doing the harm itself, or maybe he won't do anything, or like he's a Ksil anyway. So what's the difference if you give him like an award, like some sort of downplaying of this. But I feel like there's something more we could get from why you would make the mistake. Just want to think about this a little bit more before we go on to the meforshim. Like why do we underestimate the damage that can be done with a Ksil who's in a position of kavod?
It could just be the unpredictability of whether or not he'll act on it.
But see, the reason why I don't think that that's the case is I don't think that's the calculus people say. I don't think they say like I'm going to give him the kavod and like maybe he won't harm anything. I don't even think they're asking the maybe question.
It could be that maybe this kavod won't do anything. I give him a little like what Ariel was saying with the person in the office, right? I give him this thing, and maybe, or I guess maybe not like that one.
Yeah.
But like I don't know. I give him a little pat on the head, or give him a little, a little award, a little boost. That might not do anything, or maybe even like, oh, this won't do something. Like, you think that like there are categories here, and he's just kind of saying like, all of it's bad. Don't do any of it. Yeah. I hear what you're saying. Hold on a second. Let's just give an example of that. Actually, I don't know if this example is relevant. Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's because the person putting him in power may feel that he can control him.
Right.
Because he's the
one bestowing the kavod, right? That's true.
He has a certain ego involved to it.
Right.
He feels like, okay, whatever he does, I can rectify it, or whatever, or
right. That is definitely a cause of blindness. That's true.
If I create a certain situation where he won't have the capability.
Yeah. See, I'm beginning to think.
It's impossible to.
I think the other problem is I think people underestimate the amount of harm that gaiva can cause in general. So in themselves, even, so you don't think about it causing that much harm in Ksil. So like, you're dealing, it'd be like, so the analogy here would be, leaving a loaded gun around when there's a kid is a bad move. But if you don't realize that the harm that guns can do, like if you don't know what a gun is, then that's like really what the mushal is here, in a way. Like it's telling you that you don't even realize you're loading a slingshot and giving it to someone. Like that whole thing is just out of your mind. Yeah, Yaakov?
Just another kind of speculative answer.
Yeah.
Is that if Ksil is this like impulsive duty wants kind of guy?
Yeah.
There might be a part of you that really unconsciously wants to be able to do that yourself. So you sort of like vicariously living through Ksil, acting out as well.
That could be. The only reason I say that could be, I definitely have seen that mistake in. Oh, in fact, you know what? Do I say this on Friday? Did I say that idea on Friday with a different pasuk? Hold on. Yes, I did. With pasuk vav, that a person cuts off his own feet and drinks resentment if he sends statements with a Ksil. That I was saying that you identify with the Ksil. In that case, you identify with the Ksil as an extension of yourself. And I extended that to Friday's pasuk, which is that you are a chacham and can understand the mashal. So you think that when you give it to the Ksil, he's going to relate to it in the same way. In other words, there's a common mistake of identification with the Ksil that could allow for the type of mistake that you would make. I wouldn't have said that on my if it was just this pasuk in isolation, because I think that's kind of like a remote case that kind of also is dependent on the Ksil like being the pleasure-seeking like rando guy, but I hear it in the context. Yeah, David?
Yeah, I think there also could be a thing that if you see that this guy's he's not a smart guy,
Mhm.
there is some assumption that he can't do much with what you give him then. If you give him some, like, okay, whatever, it's like not like his brain's not that strong, whatever it is, he's not going to like actually do anything with what I give him. So there's like, so I think it would also be like some sort of like lock here to throw him that bone of like nothing's going to come.
Okay, so just one thing I want to make clear here. Mishlei Ksil can have very high IQ. Right, so it's not, when we say fool in Mishlei, we don't mean someone who is unintelligent. Yeah, a Pesi would be unintelligent and a Na'ar might be unintelligent. Ksilin tend to not be unintelligent. So that's like, if that were the case here, then, or if this is a generic fool, then yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Can I just question your line of reasoning for a second?
I have a line of reasoning.
Yeah. If you're saying that this is, I mean, the individual who's bestowing him this honor doesn't even recognize that, he would recognize a loaded gun, but he doesn't even recognize the consequence of loaded gun. So he must, so that individual doesn't even, so we're speaking about an individual who doesn't even know. So isn't that a fool?
I mean, it's a fool in the sense of someone who needs a good dose of Mishlei, which is like this.
I'm saying like put this up. I'm trying to say that a chacham would never put this guy in power.
Right. Yeah.
A Russia may just because he's wicked.
Right.
So are we talking about another fool?
I think we're talking.
So then, like, if we're talking about another fool, then like
we're talking to an average person. I think.
Of course, so who's what's an average person? Like, who's the average person? Where does it fall?
So you're saying like, what's a Mishlei archetype?
Yeah, I'm saying like
yeah, Nara or Pesi. Yeah.
A Nara or Pesi.
Yeah, those are the default audiences in Mishlei.
Isn't there a simple answer? They just don't know any better. They just don't recognize that he's a fool.
So you could say that for every pasuk and not get any ideas.
No, but if they're an hour Pesi and if they don't have like a high IQ or whatever, then they don't recognize, because a fool you said could act intelligently.
Right.
So he can hide the fact that he's a fool.
Well, if you don't even know that he's a Ksil, so then you can't apply the pasuk. I agree with that. The pasuk is dealing with a case where you know that this guy's a Ksil, and you just think that giving him kavod is not going to result in anything that's that bad. And I think that a lot of people can make that mistake. I mean, it's a good question whether a chacham would make this mistake or not. But like,
Well, I'm assuming that a chacham would, unless I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's why I was viewing this as a much more broad audience.
I was right, because I would assume that a chacham would recognize.
Right. So then that's why I'm saying that this is like an average. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Sean.
Can I give a interpretation for Saadia Gaon?
Oh yes, sure. Yeah, I forgot about Saadia Gaon.
Okay, so right, so like a precious stone and a heap of regular stones. So two is one who gives honor to a fool. So
Yeah.
I'm actually going to say that the person who gives honor to a fool is like the precious stone in a bunch of regular stones.
The person who gives honor is the precious stone.
Is the precious stone,
Okay.
right? In a sense, what they're doing by associating with the fool, which is like the regular stones,
Yeah.
they're devaluing
The honor.
themselves. And so by working with and giving honor to fools,
Yeah.
and joining amongst them, so then you devalue any impact that you're going to.
That's good. Yeah. Okay. So I have maybe this is interesting. I have an example of this, and this is kind of like a little bit of a bone chilling moment that I had given. I think it was a final or a midterm project in it was an EO class, and like I gave the student did like an amazing job on this project, and I guess I didn't know had insecurities about it. So like on the report card, like I wrote about how good of a project this was, and at the next, I think I was at the next parent teacher conference or something. Then the student's mom said, she said, my daughter was so thrilled about your comments because she said, I know that Rabbi Schneeweiss would never give a compliment to a student if he didn't mean it. Now I'm lucky that that's the case, that I wouldn't give a compliment if I didn't mean it, but it made me realize like I had no idea that like there was that much being read into the into like the praise, and if I had made the decision to give that praise to like someone who didn't deserve it, or like I just engaged in some sort of platitude, it would have totally like devalued the entire thing. So that's interesting. That's a good idea for the Saadia Gaon. And I think it works with the lashon too. Right? The giver of kavod is like the stone. That's good.
Yeah.
Good idea.
And I think the reason why a person would want to do it is because they want to build themselves up, and like by giving honor to people, like getting a following, people respect you. Like,
Yeah, right.
You're a person who like feeds to other people's egos, so then they like you and they
Right.
appreciate you and they.
Also, it's a very easy, giving kavod is a very easy thing to do, like especially if it's in the form of verbal acknowledgement,
Yeah.
you know. So like it's a cheap, it's a
Yeah.
readily available currency, you
And
know.
if you use it cheaply, then
Right,
going
it's
to
like
reflect
fiat
on being
currency.
cheap.
It's just like, oh, just print more money, and then you know, yeah.
So Sean, in your definition, or I guess idea, Saadia Gaon, the precious stone is being lost in the regular stones. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Not
Yeah.
that it's like singled out in the stones, and, like you
Yeah.
see
Yeah,
it.
it's in a heap, like it's a yeah.
Is that what we're saying for?
For Saadia Gaon.
In the heap means like.
It's like lost in the heap. Yeah. So let's do this because we have like
How do you diagnose Ksil? Because according to this, it's actually dangerous, to do this Ksil.
Yeah.
So the importance to recognize. Ksil.
Right. So it's a good question. I mean, the answer is you learn the Mishlei Psukim that have to do with Ksil, and then the more you learn about the Mishlei Psukim, the more you get a clear idea of it. Like we're really seeing that. I mean, again, it's crazy on Monday nights how long we've been focusing on the tzaddik and the rasha, but it is such a clear definition of tzaddik and rasha than I've ever had because we've gone through like 20 or 30 psukim about tzaddikim and rashaim and seen them from every angle, you know. So like the more you do this about with any of the Mishlei personalities. Yeah, right.
So it's a different idea.
Yeah, then the more angles you see it from, then the more able you'll be able to, the better able you'll be to diagnose them. Yeah. Just in the remaining time, I want to go to Saadia Gaon's Pirush on Mishlei and just see if he says what Sean said. And if he doesn't, that does not invalidate the idea. I don't know if you remember this, but when I did the Mishlei power rankings, I put Targum Saadia Gaon very high and Pirush Saadia Gaon low. One of the reasons is I said that like oftentimes I find I get better ideas from his translations than what he actually writes. So like we'll see what he says. Yeah, Yaakov.
Is this dangerous if you give it to a person?
Good question. I think that will depend on whether you say that the Ksil here is the generic bad Mishlei actor or Davka the Ksil. Pesi does not have the same level of haughtiness that characterizes all of the Mishlei definitions of Ksil that I have, that I know. So like, I wouldn't say it's as dangerous. It might be somewhat dangerous. All right, let's see what he says. Saadia Gaon says, Evan Hakatana Nikras Ba'aretz or Eretz Yisrael Tzror. Oh, wow. That's where he gets it from. So he says that a small stone in Eretz Yisrael is called a Tzror. Kafik says, Targum Tzror Sarar, Ve'in Ba'arabit Haklalit Shem Zeh, Lefika Chutzrach, Rabbeinu Latzayin Makom Shimusha. Okay, fine. So he's taking it as like an Arabic-ish word or a different word. Fine. V'hamargema hu makom sheyesh bo avanim tziburos kmo tel ogal. So that's a heap, right? A margema is a place where there are stones. I don't know what tziburos is. Like a mound or a heap.
Like tzibur, like a group?
I don't think so. Maybe it could be. I don't know what tziboros, avanim tziboros is. What?
Tziburos, like gathering.
I have a dictionary right here. That's why I got the dictionary.
It's Tibor, like
I don't think it's tibor.
No?
Communal stones. Maybe. I don't know.
Is an adjective like gathered?
Like or gatherings, like multiple.
Not finding it.
It almost sounds like a. what's it
Oh,
called?
accumulated. Savar is accumulated, hoarded, or stored. Okay, like a
So, like-
like a gravel pile, I guess maybe.
Yeah, like, what's it, not like a mine.
Like a quarry?
Yeah, quarry. Yeah, but it sounds like a storage place, whatever.
Yeah.
A pebble silo, if those are things. Amar HaChacham. So the Chacham said, "Kamosh hamaniach even margalis bein avanim usalaim harizo avada." Just like one who places a precious stone among stones and rocks, and it will be lost. So too, someone who bestows good and kavod to someone other than chachamim, he will lose them or destroy them. This is like
I think saying the kavod or good is wasted.
Yeah, I'm just puzzling over the plural.
Yeah, I've done this to destroy, no?
To destroy or cause it to be lost. Here definitely means to be lost, I think. Yeah, I just was confused because he uses tova and kavod to sing it, whatever. I think that's a pshat though. This is like what it said above. That someone who casts something about onto someone who doesn't have the ability, that's giving a mashal to the ksil, or something that he's not able to do. he is sinning against the person who he's entrusting it to and against himself. Kach hamechabed ksil, so to one who honors the ksil, choti leksil, he's sinning against the ksil, ulekavod atzmo, and his own kavod. V'hinei chatu lekavod shehu ma'abdo, he's sinning to the kavod because he's losing it. Uleksil shehu gorin lo laksho shemachabdim oso al amdo b'ksiluso v'yidabek ba, and he is harming the ksil because he's causing him to think that they're honoring him for persisting in his foolishness and clinging to it. So that last part is kind of like the approaches we were taking before, but the first part is, it's not exactly like Sean was saying, but I mean, he's saying that you are harming your own dignity or your own kavod in this way. Yeah.
Is the end, is that saying that he will see what's happening and then he'll stick to his foolishness?
He'll stick to his foolishness. Yeah. Okay, let's stop here for today, and tomorrow we'll check out other meforshim in Neder. Review. I actually this time don't want to review. I think I want to let it percolate. But thank you for reminding me, though.
I'm still trying to understand why.
Yeah.
Why you want.
Thank you.
He does not know that he's wrong.
No, he does know he's